some tank talk, I know just what to do. Go to Tank Talk with Tian, the greatest group in all the land. No assholes, no bullshit. It's Tank Talk with Tian. It's Tank Talk with Tian. You know it's almost 7 o'clock. Time for Tank Talk with Tian. Got a little piece of the ocean right here in my house. I like it a lot, but sometimes it can stress me out. The colors are popping when I turn on the blues. And when I want some tank talk, I know just what to do. Go to Tank Talk with Tian, the greatest group in all the land. No assholes, no bullshit. It's Tank Talk with Tian. It's Tank Talk with Tian. You know it's almost 7 o'clock. Time for Tank Talk with Tian. Got a little piece of the ocean right here in my house. I like it a lot, but sometimes it can stress me out. The colors are popping when I turn on the blues. And when I want some tank talk, I know just what to do. Go to Tank Talk with Tian, the greatest group in all the land. No assholes, no bullshit. It's Tank Talk with Tian. It's Tank Talk with Tian. You know it's almost 7 o'clock. Time for Tank Talk with Tian. Got a little piece of the ocean right here in my house. I like it a lot, but sometimes it can stress me out. The colors are popping when I turn on the blues. And when I want some tank talk, I know just what to do. Go to Tank Talk with Tian, the greatest group in all the land. No assholes, no bullshit. It's Tank Talk with Tian. It's Tank Talk with Tian.
Hello, everybody. Who do we have watching tonight? Scott Whitlow, Joseph, Bill, Hubby. Who else is watching? Bryce is watching. Gail. If you're watching, say hello. David Govek. Doreen, Daryl. Glad to see all of you here tonight. This is a very special Tuesday night. Absolutely it is. So, Mark, here we go, Bryce. That's right. Here we go. I don't know about y'all, but I've been waiting for patiently, tried to wait patiently for this. I know I've been excited about it, and I do believe a lot of you have also. Hello, Matt. Glad to see you here. Guys, if this is your first time joining us for a live here on Tank Talk with Tian, we do this every Tuesday night, same time. You will find us right here. Uh, special guest, special hobbyist, a legend. Who knows? So yes, we do this every Tuesday night. So, just set your clocks and tune in every Tuesday night. So, guys, tonight it's an honor to welcome a true pioneer whose name has become synonymous with innovation, sustainability, and a lifelong passion for the ocean. For decades, Walt Smith has helped shape the marine aquarium hobby through his groundbreaking work in coral farming, aquaculture, and reef conservation. His vision has influenced not only how we enjoy reef aquariums, but also how we think about protecting the incredible ecosystems they represent. Beyond the accomplishments and recognition, Walt's story is one of dedication, perseverance, and a genuine love for the ocean and the people who share that passion. Whether you've been reefing for 30 years or you're just setting up your tank, chances are you've been impacted by the work that he has done in one way or another. So tonight, let's dive into the stories behind the legacy, the lessons learned along the way, and the vision for the future. So, guys, join me in welcoming the legendary Walt Smith. Let's do this. What can we have? Walt Ebra.
I'm still laughing from the legendary bit.
Well, you can laugh all you want to, but that is how you're classified as legendary, sir. So, how are you tonight?
We're doing great. We're at our home here in the U.S., so we're not in Fiji, so it's easier for us to communicate. Otherwise, it would be noon there right now. It's noon right now in Fiji. So
Ooh.
I'd be very busy and way too busy to be doing this kind of stuff. But
Well, I'm glad you're at your home in Vegas, so we can chat with you guys. This has been, like I said, it's just an honor for me to have you guys on, and
well, I
it's just,
consider it an honor that you considered us.
oh my goodness. I was like, when I first, the first mention of Walt Smith came up, I was like, that would be so cool to have him on, but I feel like you were out of my league. You wouldn't want to come on with little old me. And when you guys said yes, I was like, wow, what an honor and privilege.
I got to tell you, we are all in the same league. Yeah. We play at different levels. We contribute, what we have to contribute on the level that we exist, and that goes from the guy who has the brick and mortar retail store down on Henley Street, who's selling to all the people that have their tanks close to where they can drive to his store, right up to where people sit on a little island and live in a grass hut and sell tropical fish to the world. So that's pretty much, we're all in the same club. We all have the same passion. And you especially, I can look at, you're sharing, all this information and all these interviews with all sorts of assorted people. That in itself is an accomplishment that should be admired.
Thank you very much. Well, I love the tanks, the fish, the corals, the rocks, all of the stuff. I love the littles, all the little creatures, and stuff. But to me, it's the community. That's the heart of it all for me. And for me to be able to bring people together in this hobby in a good way. That's what I set out to do. And so, yes, absolutely. It's all about the people for me. And my earring is like pinching the crap out of my ear. Sorry about that. I was like,
You,
what?
you, you, you have hearings. I have hearing aids. Same problem.
I need a hearing. I'm totally deaf in this ear, so I get you. I get you. Now, there's already been like, I don't know how many comments on your shirt. And guys, we're gonna get to that shirt here in just a little. We're not gonna start out with it. You just look at it for a bit. But absolutely, we're gonna talk about that cool shirt that you have on. So now, Walt, Deborah, first of all, my biggest thanks to you for coming on. We're gonna travel down memory road, memory lane, I guess you'd say. And to start it out with, I want to know what first made you fall in love with the ocean.
Well, it's simple. I was in college, and I guess I should start at the beginning. I'm the oldest of 10. Okay. And my parents would never let me have an aquarium in the house because they said too much to take care of. We have too many kids and blah, blah, blah. And all my friends had aquariums and I always wanted one. So I finally got off on my own in college and had my own apartment and nobody stopping me. And what I did is I went with my neighbor who lived across the hall from me, who was also in college. And we went to the dumpster in the apartment building that we were living in, and we just pulled out old lamps and whatever was in there that people threw away, put it in the back of our car, and drove to the swap meet the next morning and sold our stuff at the swap meet and made enough money to where on the way home, I believe it or not, I sold rubbish. But we made, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks. And my friend mentioned on the way home, he says, Kmart is having a special for $10. You can buy a $10-gallon tank with a light and a heater and all the stuff, that goes with it. And I said, I'm in. I'll take my $10 and I'll buy my first aquarium. So I had a little, I was studying architecture at the time, so I had a little studio in my house with my drawing board, and I put the aquarium at the right there where I could see it while I was doing all my homework and my projects and everything. And I had neon tetras and newts and frogs, but every time I went to the fish store that was in my neighborhood, he had saltwater fish. Now, saltwater fish at that time have only been in the industry a maximum of about 4 years. I'm talking about 1970. And I think saltwater fish just started becoming available to hobbyists in the year 68, 66, somewhere in that period. So It was brand new. But every time I went in to buy fish food or whatever I needed for my newts and my neon tetras, I would be looking at these long-nosed butterflies and copper bands and yellow tangs, and I'm going, I want some of those. And he goes, well, in order to do that, you need to buy all this other equipment, to keep them alive. Well,
back to the trash can.
That's my goal. But I soon found myself driving to every store I could find in the city of Chicago, where I grew up and where I was, just to look at their saltwater fish display. And I finally went and I fell in the. To answer your question, that's how I fell in love with the ocean, because I thought the creatures were so interesting. They were different than fish just swim back and forth in the tank. They had personality. They had different colors. They had shapes that were just unbelievable. They had, habits that, I'll look back at the pearly jawfish, from the Caribbean. I don't even know if pearly jaw is still in the industry anymore, but in the day, back in 1970, it was a popular fish, and it was this neat little thing that dug holes in the sand and came up and spit it out and had big eyeballs and looked back and forth. And see who's around you. And
Right.
there was one store that had about 20 of those in one great big tank, and they had their own colony, and they were just popping up and down like, you know, cuckoo birds. And I said, this is for me. You know, I really need to get into this. So I went to one of the stores that had supplies, you know, for aquarium, you know, saltwater and all that. And what I noticed on the floor was this box of rocks. And I looked down and I saw this one rock that was just gorgeous. It had a cave in it. It had holes. It was this big, gorgeous rock. Of course, it was, you know, dry and dead. It wasn't live rock.
Yeah.
I bought that. Before I even bought an aquarium, I bought a rock because I said, when I get an aquarium, this rock's going to go in that aquarium and the fish are going to look beautiful swimming around, you know. So that's how my passion started. Where it went from there is I finally went and bought an 80-gallon fish tank, put it in my living room, had yellow tangs and seahorse and spiny box puffers and things swimming around in it. But in those days, technology for a saltwater aquarium consisted of an undergravel filter with an air stone and a Growlux light bulb that you grow plants with. And that was it. That's all we could do to keep fish alive. So people were having really difficult success, you know, keeping everything alive. But I decided I would visit, you know, like I said, I visited every store in Chicago to see what they had and what was different and what was new. And I'm learning the fish that way. And then I was practicing architecture. Now I'm out of school. I'm practicing architecture in Chicago for a big real estate firm in downtown Chicago. And I had a partner, and it was snowing, and you know, we were sitting on the top of the Sears Tower, which is the company that I work for owned that property. The hail was just beating against the windows. We're up on the top floor having breakfast, and I looked at my partner, who was about 50 years older than me, and I said, you know what? I'm leaving. I'm leaving Chicago. I'm going to move to California, where the ocean is. I want to be near the ocean. I want to get in the ocean and swim around and see these things for real. See where they live. See how they, you know, how they interact. Learn all about that.
Right.
Little did I know, moving to California is not the best place to do ocean observations, you know, with tropical fish. You know, the water's cold. All they have is kelp, you know, Garibaldi. That's about it. But my partner looked at me, raised his glasses up on his forehead and said, "You're going to do what?" And I said, "Yep, this is what I'm going to do." I went to that same swap meet a couple of weeks later, sold all my furniture, everything I had, and I moved to California. Now this is in 1972, days before cell phones, internet, any of that stuff. So I had to communicate by fax machine. I think this is even before fax machines. I had to communicate by mail to an architect that I wanted to work for in California, and send him my drawings, send him my resume, you know, blah 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 by mail. So it was weeks at a time before I finally heard back, and he did hire me and said, yes, you know, I have a job for you here. And so my day was made. I'm moving to California, and I'm going to go see the ocean. The only reason I wanted to move there was not to work for this architect in California, but so that I can go to see the ocean every day. And that's pretty much how I started out in the business. Because, and I'm sorry to make this short story long, but anyway, that's how I started in the business. I went and I found the tide pools. I asked questions all up and down the beaches in California. Where do I go? Because all I saw was sandy beaches and cold water. I didn't really see what I was looking for. Finally, somebody told me where I could go see tide pools and things, you know, that you could actually look at and pick up and whatever. So I found an area that had a lot of tide pools. And what I decided to do was I would stop at a fish store and buy a styrofoam box, go down to the beach or go down to this tide pool, which involved taking my two younger daughters, which were like babies, down the side of a cliff to this tide pool area, and then wander out, and find sea slugs and starfish and whatever, put them in plastic bags, drive them to the airport, and send them to my friends in Chicago that owned all these stores that I was their junkie. I was in their store every day. They knew who I was. Because, oh,
Right.
this is, oh yeah, you again, where are you now? And so I said, I'm here. I got these starfish. I'd like to send them to you. And I did. And that's how I started in the business. That's how virgin the business really was in those days. There wasn't really any set up supply of, certain areas and countries and things that supplied saltwater fish to the industry. Eventually, the Philippines kicked in, then Indonesia, and then all the other countries. But it's a long story. But that's why I fell in love with the ocean. I moved from my home in Chicago to California to be near it.
That is an awesome story. Uh, so your love that you've had this deep passion, this deep love for it for so long, and that's just a really cool story. And that's probably a story that maybe a lot of people doesn't know actually. So fast forward through the years and stuff, here we are today, and we're going to go back through some years, but did you ever imagine that you'd become one of the most recognized names in the reef hobby? Did that ever cross your mind?
No, and it wasn't a goal. What it was, I was just following my passion. But, part of my personality, and, sometimes I drive people crazy because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I want things done the right way the first time and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's part of my artistic training, architectural training. But I wanted to really make sure that what I did right. And so I think where it all started is when I was doing what I just described, selling starfish and sea slugs, I finally went to work for a wholesaler in California. By the way, the architectural job fell through because it took me about 17 days to drive to California because I figured I had the time. The guy gave me 30 days. And, I stopped in the Petrified Forest and I stopped in Las Vegas, driving from Chicago. So it took me a while to get to California. By the time I got to California, I called the guy and said, well, you know what, Nixon's president and we stopped all federal funding and all the jobs we have had just evaporated. And I'm sorry, but I don't have a job for you anymore. So that's why I started doing the tide pool thing. And yeah, and trying to survive because I'm not leaving. I made it to the ocean. I'm staying here. And I said, the next place I ever move from here is going to be tropical. And that's for a story later on. But as I started working for a wholesaler, I had customers that I was dealing with over the phone, and they're just going, Walt, there's another wholesaler down the street that's selling these that, you don't have in the warehouse you work for. Would you mind going down and, picking up some of those for me, and you can charge me extra for them and, put them on the shipment along with the shipment I'm ordering now. And I said, yeah, I can do that. I asked, the owner that I was working for, can we do this? And he told me no. He says, I don't want anybody else's fish in my warehouse because I don't want cross disease and whatever, which was a reasonable concern. Right. So I went to another wholesaler and said, I have this idea. I have a lot of customers out there that want a variety of fish. And in those days, each wholesaler only got from like 1 or 2 countries. And they all were different. So the wholesalers had different varieties. So I said, what I can do is I can combine the varieties from all around town. And there was only about 3 or 4 wholesalers in those days at the time. I said, but I can combine their varieties and go and buy from them and then ship out, to my stores. So the customers became mine. The inventory became the guy that agreed to work with me, plus other people's inventory that I would go out and buy all day long and then ship. My customers got the advantage of having fish handpicked by a guy who was looking for anything that was on them, disease-wise or, any kind of, small imperfection or whatever, to a variety that you can't get from one place. So my name started becoming popular. If you want, a full box of fish and everything you ordered, and it all in good condition, call Walt Smith. So I started advertising in the magazines that were there at the time. So I became a well-known jobber at the time. I also started getting fish at that time from another country that was just starting out. And the fish that came in were beautiful, but they were all dead. And they didn't really know what they were doing. And I said, you really need to learn how to ship the fish. You can collect them. The fish are beautiful, but you need to get them to me alive. So I decided to make a trip down there. So Deb and I jumped on a plane with our young daughter at the time, who was about 6 months old, and went down to a place called the Kingdom of Tonga and saw these people that had no idea what they were doing, but they knew everybody wanted tropical fish. So I started teaching them and showing them what to do. And one of the owners looked at me and said, what we really need is a working partner. So I turned to Deb and I said, we're moving to Tonga.
Deb, how'd you feel about that?
Well, we'd spent quite a bit of time in the Caribbean and really liked tropical life and knew that would be something that was great, I was a Girl Scout for far too long, so the sense of adventure and living without a lot of, items was okay for me. I didn't freak out. I said, oh, okay.
And
that's really where we wanted to go.
She always told me, if you want to travel, just let me know. I'll buy my toothbrush when I get there.
Yeah, I wanted to go. I just had that spirit. I just wanted to go and see, and I didn't really want that 9-to-5 normal lifestyle. That I needed more of adventure in my life.
And I created that.
Yeah.
I started saying that I think you hooked up with the right guy.
I did. I wanted to travel.
So it was fun. Mm-hmm. So that's, all of those steps. When we got to Tonga, I started and that was in 1989. Okay.
Yeah, fast forward.
And so I had been a wholesaler in California for like 16 years or whatever it was, and knew the industry well because I was a jobber for all the wholesalers. I was their good friend, and I was the guy that would go in the middle of the night when the shipments came in and help them unbag the fish. Why? Because I got first pick, and and that really helped. That really helped my customers out because now they know that if you call Walt, you're going to get whatever you want.
That was 16 years of him being a jobber.
Yeah,
16
wow.
years.
And the funny thing is, I did this for all those years, and this is so simple. All you have to do is stay up all night for 5 nights in a row, buy fish, and then put them in bags and then ship them all day long and then start again at night and do this for 5 days. Why isn't anybody else copying this? Why isn't anybody else, taking this idea and competing with me? But I was all alone for all those years. The minute I moved to Tonga, like 6 or 7 versions of what I had started up then. But it was only after I had already left because they knew I already had a keyhold in, all of the wholesalers and was getting first pick and whatever. So, but when we moved to Tonga, it was about fish, but wet dry filters had just come on the market. And they were coming out of a company in Denmark. I can't remember the name of the company now, but probably many people watching, might remember. But with the wet dry filters, you can now, and lighting was starting to become more sophisticated. So with all of that coming on board, people were now able to start keeping coral alive. Well, none of the wholesalers were shipping coral, but I was looking around. I did my first couple dives in Tonga, and I'm looking around and I'm seeing all this yellow leather and lavender rock and Calistrea and Acroporas and all this, the Bacillopora and all this stuff that had never, ever been shipped to the industry before. And here's this fields of it just in front of me. And I'm going,
Right.
you know, this will, we can now ship this to the aquarium trade because they can now keep it alive. So that was the very beginning of Tonga. Was the first station ever to ship live coral, aside of the fact that for many, many years, Indonesia had shipped Gonapora only along with their fish because it looked like a nice big flower pot and it lasted 3 or 4 weeks in your tank. So people bought it. But that was the only coral that was really coming in. So I looked at all this variety and said, we could really do something with this. So we started shipping, you know, coral from Tonga. Nobody had seen it before. The business grew, you know, rapidly. We had more customers than we knew what to do with because once they found out where it was coming from, they contacted me, of course. And but the problem was we were getting all these things in the water that didn't have names yet. You know, like yellow leather, lavender rock, candy coral, you know, all of these names that we collected. So, okay, now we can sell this to our customer, but what are we going to call it? So Deb and I looked at each other and we're going, oh,
that was a fun one.
well, lavender rock is this purple discosoma.
Velvet,
Discosoma
fluffy.
anemones living all over rock, and in the early days, it was all that we collected. It was the color of lavender purple, so we called it lavender rock.
Keep it simple.
Calistrea, Falconi, became, you know, candy coral because when I looked at it, it reminded me of Christmas candy that I used to get when I was a little kid. Just the tips, you know, and I said, okay, let's call this candy coral. So a lot of those common names originated in Tonga. And then what had happened right after that is all of my customers in the U.S. were going to their Indonesian suppliers. Hey, Walt is collecting all this stuff in Tonga, and he's charging us a lot of money for it. Can you collect it there in Indonesia and ship it to us? And sure enough, I created my own competition. So that, yeah, but that made for a healthy business. That made for, you know, staying on your toes and whatever. So about in 1995, there was a delegation to Tonga of all the regional fisheries in the area: Fiji, Vanuatu, Cook Islands, Solomon Islands, Tahiti. Everybody converged on Tonga for a conference that we were having at fisheries. And part of that deal was they went on a field trip, and part of the field trip is they came to my warehouse to see a fisheries export and see all the corals in place, and how we did it. So the guy from Fiji came up to me, who was a head fisheries principals officer, and came up to me and said, would you like to expand your business to Fiji? We're now have an emerging industry there. People are interested in doing this, and we would like to have you come and set an example, you know, for the industry and all the equipment you had, because we had high tech. We had all the skimmers and the reactors and everything there, you know, in Tonga, keeping everything alive because it became available and I shipped it in. So in 1995, we went over to Tonga, did a survey, and said, this is the place we need to be. Now we had 2 kids, and they were growing older and needed better schools.
And a bigger airport.
In Tonga, we had one flight a week. That was a 737, and we can only fit, you know, between 10 and 20 boxes on it. In Fiji, we had a 747 going to LAX every day of the week, and my first shipment was 400 boxes. So that was the difference. And
wow.
So you asked how the legacy developed. That's how it developed. It was all by chance. Nothing was done as a goal or as a plan, you know, to, hey, I'm going to get into this and make myself a legacy. I just got into it because I loved it. And when you love something, you do it well. And if you do it well, people recognize.
That is so true. I totally agree with that. So, you went through some of your adventures and stuff, and we've got a lot more to go through, guys. But what was the biggest risk that you ever took that completely changed your career?
One word,
Okay.
Tonga.
Tonga. That was your biggest risk.
And I just told the whole story, so you understand why.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. That is awesome. That is
I mean,
awesome.
to be standing there in Tonga on a vacation, I actually went there with a customer of mine that was in St. Louis. We both went there with our families. We hired a babysitter to come with us, and we went there for 2 weeks, to visit Tonga. And after being there for only 3 days, for me to turn around and tell my lovely wife we're moving to Tonga and have her accept the idea, that was the biggest risk I've ever taken.
I was holding a baby, and I'm standing in a yard with broken fish tanks and PVC pipes everywhere, and I'm like, "You want a what?"
What? But I see that you went along. You gave in pretty easily, didn't you, Deb?
Yeah, I fit right in. Not at all. It's a baseball cap, and
Wow.
And I might mention, she had her own very successful business in LA as well. We were both separate business people. She had her own studio as an interior designer and hired people. And she had to give all that up to move with me to go chase little fish around.
I liked it because in the diving, in the snorkeling, we snorkeled then. The phone wouldn't ring. I'm like, oh, this is great under here. No one can bother me. No one can find me.
That's awesome.
The phone didn't ring. I like the peace.
But we spent a minimum of 5 days, 5 hours a day in the water, 6 days a week.
Wow.
We didn't even take lunch. I mean, once I got in the water with my snorkel on and I just was swimming around, I might be hundreds of yards away from the boat by the time I realized, oh, I've gone too far, but I mean, that's how we spent our life in the first couple of years in Tonga. We were in the water every single day. When we went back to America to visit our parents or whatever, people were, where are you from? I mean, we were black.
We were really dark. It's fun.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. That is just absolutely such an amazing story. Through all your adventures, Walt, was there ever a moment that you almost walked away from it all?
Well, pretty much everybody knows, or at least most people know, about the ban that Fiji suffered in 2000. What was it? 2006,
17, Christmas at 2017.
Well, Christmas 2017, basically 2018. That ban lasted for 7 years, but it was actually 8 years before we were able to ship because of laws in place and had to be changed and whatever.
We were able to ship the rock.
And a lot of people told me, just give up. At the time the ban came along, we were okay to retire at that moment. I mean, everything was all right. But we had heard that, well, the ban is just temporary. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fixed any day now. So I held on and I persisted, and I was, really diligent in trying to, convince the government that, what they had decided was wrong. And we had to take them to court, and we finally won after 8 years. But there were times where, say, walk away, and I'm going, well, I've got this much into it already. I might as well see it through to the end. So other than that period of my life, which was pretty dark, I mean, we had to sell properties and we had to sell cars and boats and everything just to keep the doors open and our employees paid. When the ban came, we went from 160 employees to 40 overnight.
It was a life-changing event.
Right.
Let's just put it this way, and extremely humbling, very humbling.
Bryce says, is it true that all imported yellow Fiji leathers come from Walt's company?
Walt and what?
He said, is it true that all imported yellow Fiji leathers come from your company?
As far as I know they come from Tonga.
They did.
They did come from Tonga because that's the first place I discovered them. But they're not as nice as the yellow leathers that come from Fiji. The ones that come from Fiji are more yellow. And from what I hear, the ones from Tonga, they haven't learned how to ship them yet. They come mostly dead.
They might come out of Indo or.
No, they do not come out. They
what
only
about
come.
Australia?
No. So
Okay.
it's quite possibly true. Yes.
Okay. Joshua asked, are they paying you back for your losses over that course of 8
Let me
years?
fall out of my chair.
Right. Hold on, Dad. Don't fall over on us.
No.
That's actually pretty funny. Would Fiji ever pay me back for anything? No, of course not.
No, of course not.
No.
That government is just so different from what we know here. And I know you fought a long, hard battle for 8 years, and I can't even imagine all that you guys went through, and you stayed steadfast, even through those darkest times, you never gave up on it. And I mean, that is a true passion right there.
It was my life. It was our life, the life we created. And before the ban, it created a pretty good life for us. We were able to travel around the world and, go to the trade shows and the conventions everywhere. I got invited to speak in a lot of places around the world and, talk about my experiences or what I know and what I think I know. And, and you mentioned a minute ago, about the government. That's another key factor. When you move to a place like Tonga or Fiji, you have to be the kind of person that can accept you're a guest in another country. You are subject to customs you may not be familiar with. You are, doing things that you had never done before. And you ask yourself why. And the government itself, it's changed. We've lived through 3 coups in Fiji, and the government changes radically, and with those changes come different policies, different things we have to follow. We're going through that right now. I mean today, where policies are changing and they're being demanded of us that we've never been asked before. So what's really key is learning what the government requires of the country that you're in, and being able to accept the fact. A lot of people, I've seen a lot of, I'm going to say white people, but not because I'm talking about Australians, New Zealanders, people from, our country, America, come down to foreign countries and they try to make a go of it, and they only last a couple months or a year and they're gone. So it takes a lot of tenacity to be able to get along with the government, learn their habits, learn how they operate, what they require, what they want to see from you, and cooperate with that. Don't be, the ugly American or whatever and argue, that our way is right. It's not. You're in their country and you're their guest.
Your guest.
Absolutely. Alyssa has a question. She says,
Okay.
If you had to do it again, what would you do differently? And that question is to both of you.
Nothing.
Nothing.
For me. Because it's the memories and the laughs and the entertainment. Like I said, it's not dull.
Yeah.
It's not dull at all. It's hilarious. You just got to roll with it. Some days are better than others, though.
I can't think of much we would do differently, because we always were posed with that question of how can we make this better?
How can you fix it?
And I followed the technology that was available. I installed that. I mean, the minute I learned about LED lights, I bought 300 fixtures to put over my coral tanks, my raiseways, which we'll get to later. But,
Yes.
It took that many fixtures, and to have spares on hand in case, they break down or whatever. But I wasn't afraid to invest in the technology that kept my product in pristine condition. So had I not done that, that might be the answer. What would I do differently? I would have paid attention to technology that's available, but we were fortunate enough to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Melissa says mistakes are always a lesson learned, and that's true. I'm sure you learned so many things as you navigated not only a new country, but a whole new culture, a whole new laws and bylaws and stuff like that. I can't even imagine, you know, that's insane. Uh, what is one story from the early years of the hobby that today's hobbyist would find so hard to believe?
Okay. I guess I'll go back to the very beginning of the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all beginners at that time. And I'm talking about 1970. And I'm sure that, in fact, I'll almost guarantee you that most people watching in right now will not have heard of this. But the only way you can keep saltwater fish alive in those days was to have an air stone and an under gravel filter. Now, for those of you that don't know what an under gravel filter is, it's a plate that has holes in it that you put in your tank first, and then you lay all your sand on top of that. And it has an uplift tube where an air stone goes down, and as the water goes up that air stone, it drags, the impurities with it and whatever. Where that goes, I don't know. Hopefully the outside filter, the filter that's hanging on the back of the tank. So to even think that you can keep saltwater fish alive in those kind of conditions is hard to believe. And that's one of the stories that I can tell you about. And then the other one is the story I told earlier about me going to tide pools. I mean, that's how this industry started. Idiots like me climbing down a cliff with two little babies and going out and collecting starfish and sea slugs, and whatever I could find swimming around the water, thinking this is the greatest fight ever. I've got gold here.
You got two containers of babies hanging on each side, and you're digging in this tide pool. I can just envision this. That's so funny.
No, Henry, I'm gonna get arrested when I tell you this, but we used to take our babies and then put them in the sand, bury them up to the waist, so they couldn't, run away or get in trouble. While
with an umbrella over their head.
And put an umbrella over their head, and we were only 50 feet away, but our main concern, of course, was our children. But the only way we can keep them safe while we were 50 feet away is to keep them stabilized.
Oh, good Lord. This is probably a story that no one else has heard.
That's how this industry started. I'm sorry, but that's the way it goes.
So everyone be thankful. This is how this industry started, There was a lot of stuff that made this industry where it is today.
There's so many stories. I'm not the only one with stories.
Ellen Seagrass was funny too.
Yeah, Ellen. Ellen was a good friend of ours, and I don't know how many people know Ellen Seagrass. He retired years ago, but he used to sell freshwater fish that he grew in little ponds behind his house, and he shellacked or lacquered dresser drawers, put them in the back of his station wagon, and drove those fish around to tropical fish stores and sold them that way. That was the beginning of Ellen Seagrass Farms.
Oh, that is funny. Yeah. Holy cow.
Ellen and I have had many laughs because we both started in the industry about the same time. He luckily retired. I'm still mucking around in this thing. But anyway.
You'll retire these days, Walt, maybe. Henry Dennig said that his first tank had an under gravel filter. Doreen says hers too. Joshua says I remember under gravel filters as well. Sean says my grandfather had underground filters and air stones. He said when sumps came out, you were king if you had one.
Right.
Barry says I ran them in the 80s because it worked great and crushed coral for substrate with 2-for-1 use. Crushed coral helped keep the pH up. That is some really cool story. We just got started. We just got started with this, but
I got a big glass of water. All done by BOD, by the way. That's my design right there.
Whoa! And we're gonna get into some. We've got some.
We'll
links
get to that later. Yeah.
Yeah, we got some links to drop here in a little bit. Because they've already commented, on your shirt. How sharp that shirt is, and if you play your cards right, somebody on here tonight might actually win one of those cool looking shirts right there. So you just got to hang with us. But the stories are great, and so I've got my Sun-Kissed Zero, and I've got a bottle right here. So I'm situated. So yeah. If you could go back and give your younger self one single piece of advice, what do you think it would be?
Well, I guess it would be. I have to think about that for a second. But if I were to give, let's say it's not my younger self, it's a younger person following in my footsteps, and I would like to give them advice as to how to go forward. And that would be always pay attention to perfection. What we do should not be taken lightly. It's live animals that need care and need the right care, and the knowledge of how to keep them alive and keep them happy for survival. And that takes a lot of dedication. But also, you have to be concerned with the environment. You have to make sure that what you're sourcing, what you're dealing with, is treating the environment in the right way. And that can be misused. I mean, there are cases in certain countries, and I won't bring up names, that are known for using poisons to catch the fish, using destructive means to harvest the coral, and so forth. So those are the places or people or things that you want to stay away from. You want to make sure that you always have a clean mind, that you've done the right thing. And sustainability is all about it. We only have one planet. And, when I walk around or go on trips or meet people I've never met before, and they say, what do you do, for a living? I say, I sell marine products. And hopefully that it ends there and they think I sell anchors or something like that. Because to try to tell people that I go out on the reef and I harvest coral is a hard thing for most people to accept if they've never heard of that before. The hobbyists, of course, understand that. The people that are on your channel right now, they understand that. But, the guy in a grocery line, behind you at the store, you tell them, well, I go out and I take coral off the reef and I send it to little people that put it in glass boxes. They don't quite understand that. So we have to overcome that image and make sure that what we're doing is the right thing and that we can prove it.
Right.
And in our case, in Fiji, we've had, I have a stack of reports that, we have 21 reports that are key that we always use in our arguments when something comes up. But all of them talk about the sustainability of our industry. We are the most sustainable fishery in Fiji. It has been analyzed that by most of the scientists that we collect 0.001% of any resource that we're looking at. That means when we get off the boat and we focus and we look around, we'll see thousands of corals in front of us. We may only be interested with the aquarium trade because the aquarium trade is so fussy and they need such good corals, they need such good colors and good shapes that there may be only 1 in 10,000 corals that we're looking at that would be appropriate for us to harvest. And so keeping that in mind, sustainability and doing the right thing and making sure that you never forget that we owe this planet our living. And we have to make sure that everything is working 50 years from now.
Absolutely. Well, there's a right way to harvest the corals, and then I'm sure there are wrong ways to harvest the corals. You don't want to just keep taking and taking and taking. And that brings me to another thing, because you are involved with planting of corals. Am I correct?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I plant coral.
Well, that was simple. A man of many words, and that's what you got?
All right. Back in 1995, I was invited to Fiji, as I told you earlier.
Yes.
So we started our business there, and the way we saw, we had a lot of money that we needed to invest to have a complete warehouse. So what we started shipping was rock, and that financed. That's why we had our first shipment was 400 boxes. It was all rock, but that helped us finance the rest of the station. So as we got into coral, fish came last, by the way. As we got into coral, which was next, and we started harvesting. Now it's a year or two later, so we're looking at 97, around there. I'm looking at what we're doing, and I'm saying, we have to. One of these days, somebody is going to approach us and say, "What are you doing, and why are you taking all this coral out of the ocean, and how is that sustainable, and how can you prove that?" And I said, we're going to have to answer to this. So we're going to have to give back, and we're going to have to prove that we give back. So I heard about people that were just starting to learn how to take little fragments in their tanks and so forth and look at it. I heard about a station in the Solomon Islands that was experimenting, with growing coral at the time, but it was very, very selective and a very small operation. And I went to the Solomon Islands, the guy there was a friend of mine, so I went to visit him. And I looked at what he was doing, and I came back to Fiji, and I said, we can experiment with it. I hired a scientist from Micronesia, came down to Fiji, and I said, this is what I want to do. And I invented ways, because nobody was doing this yet, but I thought, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. So I invented a rack, which is 4x8 sheet of welded wire mesh, which was like, squares of metal, large squares of screen, if you will, and a rebar frame that had legs that kept it off the bottom of the ocean so predators wouldn't crawl on it, whatever. And I developed these little pegs, okay, that we set up a shop, and we had a whole part of our warehouse, because we're on 3 acres. We have a compound that's right on the ocean. So we had a shop that we set up sandboxes, and we started developing these to grow coral in. So every one of these pegs had a hole on the top. And the reason we developed it this way is says, what's going to hold that coral to the peg, so it won't blow away in the ocean and the currents mess with it and whatever, tip it over. And so what happens is this peg fits nice and neatly into the squares of the wire mesh. And over the years over the months that it grows, because on the top of the peg is a hole. And in that hole, we put the glue and a little frag. Well, usually the frags are about this size or a little bigger. Well, we found after our experiments, Each one of those racks can hold about 400 to 450 of these. Okay. And we found that after about 3 months of this growing there, it turned into this.
Ah, look at that.
And said, we can do this. The hobbyists will buy this instead of the stuff that we, harvest for the wild. And here's also another one. This one's about 6 or 8 months old, and this is Stylophora. And you can see, we even have little tags that we put on them that show that they're grown by the aid project, Walt Smith International, blah blah blah. So snorkelers that come across these and everything know what it is and why it's growing, and we exported it with the tags on it. But we said we have to, and there's a 1 day's work. We can plant. We have proved that we can plant more than 1,000 corals in 1 day. We did that with, I don't know if many of you know Adam Blundell out of Salt Lake City, but
University of Utah.
He would come down to Fiji every 2 years, and he brought 23 students with him on one trip just a couple of years ago. And I said, we're going to plant more than 1,000 corals in a day. Now, most of these NGOs, nonprofit organizations that were growing coral, were doing 30 in a day, and they made front page news. So we said, we're going to show people what coral farming is really all about. And we planted 1,080 corals in that first day. And
1,080 corals in 1 day.
Well, it took 2 days. It took 2 days to set, 1 day to set up this, and then the next day, and then in 1 day we put all the frags in these and took them out to the reef where our racks were sitting on the reef and placed them all there. What happens after 3 or 4 months when they grow to be this size? They get planted on the reef, because the other beauty of this peg that we invented was, once you take this off the rack, now what? You swim, just a couple of kicks away, and there's the reef, and it's full of holes and nooks and crannies and whatever. And we're able to take this and screw it right into one of the holes that we find on the reef, and that's where it spends the rest of its life. That's where it grows to maturity. That's where it breeds. That's where it makes thousands of babies over the years. And if you can imagine, since we started this in 1998, we have planted 1.8 million corals on the reefs in Fiji. If you can imagine how many offspring that has created, it's quite an amazing number. I talked to my friend Bruce Carlson about that, years ago. I said, how can we come up with a number of what this actually produces? Walt, that number wouldn't fit on a page. And
that is so true.
Yes, and that's one of the things that we're most proud of, and it's developed along the years. It's a nonprofit organization, so it relies heavily on donations. In the beginning, some really good people did donate from the industry. I can't mention all the names, but if you go to the aid site, which will flash on the screen eventually, you can see who those donors were. But it's just about, as time went on, donors became less and less available. So who financed and who donated to the aid project? It was Walt Smith International. We were the only ones that had the funds to make this thing keep going. So we did. And even through the hard years, when we weren't allowed to collect coral, we were doing the farming and collecting fish. And what you see here on this map, I don't know if you can slide it over but where you see Viti Levu, there'll be some yellow circles, and these are where our farm sites are. Up in the northern island, Levu, you'll see Vunivutu and Drua Drua with yellow circles, and down there you'll see our Walt Smith farms. Now that the circle that says Walt Smith Farms actually has 7 sites in that area. And then we have another site at a resort called Treasure Island. So that's how aid grew, and that's how aid was able to survive, just by our donations and growing coral. The unfortunate part about it is the hobby itself didn't really accept the corals grown on pegs, that looked, like this.
Uh-huh.
They wanted the natural thing. So we had a hard time selling the frags, on pegs. So they became mostly what we call replacement corals for what we're harvesting. And we always, it always turns out that we plant just about as many as we export every year. So it's
Wow.
actually zero impact. And here you can see the racks I'm talking about, and some of the corals are growing on there at different stages of their growth. And it was fun. We loved watching it. We loved going out to the racks and, wow, we haven't been here in 2 months and look what's happened. So it was a great learning experience for us. We taught the world. Now you'll find every resort in anywhere in the tropical world that has a coral reef near it has some sort of a program where they're growing corals. Where did that start? The epicenter was Tavua Island in Fiji.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Brianna, if you've got those, the ADE link, if you want to drop that, I would greatly appreciate it. There it is, the ADE project, Aquaculture Development for the Environment. Walt Registered Aquaculture Development for the Environment, ADE, as a non-for-profit organization to help fund the project through the outside donations. He then began his work to restore the reefs in the northern district of Fiji by creating one of the largest coral reef restoration projects in the world. That is absolutely amazing.
That's an easy claim because there's not many of these. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of them around the world now that, that do the same kind of work, but there's not many of them that can claim that they planted more than 1 million corals. So
right.
That's why we're able to, and I've researched this to make sure that I wasn't just shooting off, senseless words. It
right.
really is. It really is a fact. And here we are. You see pictures of us training the villagers how to do this because we turn the project over to them. What we do is we donate the project to a village, and then we train them how to plant the corals, how to take care of them, how to plant them on the reef. And then if we're lucky enough, and what the project is really dedicated to do, is we find resorts, or we find villagers that are close to resorts. And then every resort has a dive program in
right.
Fiji. And they take their tourists out and they say, oh, let's go look at, Lacy Daisy Reef, or let's go look at this. Well, how would you like to go look at a working coral farm? And a lot of the tourists raise their hands. So how we benefit the village is we donate them the coral farm that comes from, the aid project. We teach them and we give them anywhere from 6 to 10 racks that they can work with. And that's thousands of corals. And
yes.
Then we talk to the resort that's right next to them. And we say, will you put this on your program to take your tourists out to see a working coral farm? And they work hand in hand with the village. So they notify the village when they have a trip coming out there. Somebody from the village is waiting for the boats to come. The tourists get in the water. Now the tourists, they can buy the coral from the racks, not for souvenirs, not to put in your suitcase. And here you see how they can plant it on the reef. But they buy the coral. They pay the village whatever the village demands. It's somewhere between $5 and $10 for a piece of coral to have the privilege of going and planting it on the reef and themselves under the guidance of our trained guides. And now these same tourists go home and they share this experience with their friends, go, I planted coral in Fiji. And they want to come back the next year and see the coral they planted and plant more coral. So it's become a very successful project in that way. In fact,
wow.
we were doing it in one of the resorts that you could walk to, the coral reef, the coral farm from the beach. And that was a hideaway resort on the Coral Coast in Fiji. And in 2007, I'm sorry, that project won the International Ecotourism Award that's given out in Turkey every year.
Oh, wow.
So the project became a very high success. It got world recognition, and that's when the rest of the world said, "Hey, we can do this too."
Absolutely.
The problem is they should be certified by somebody that can teach them how to do it the right way, because what we're finding in Fiji is all the resorts are going, "Yeah, we can do this. We don't need Walt Smith. Our cook is off on Sunday. He can plant coral." And without certification of how to do it right, you could potentially wind up doing more harm than good.
Absolutely.
So we're trying to go through a program now to get the process of being able to plant coral in Fiji certified, so that only people that have been trained can do it and participate in the ecotourism that's widely available now in Fiji.
That's amazing. Henry Dennig asks, can tourists, the divers, to this day, can they still help plant corals?
Well, like I just mentioned, yes, of course. You get involved in one of the resort programs and go out and visit the village and help the village. I mean, the village earns money. Here you see a photo of, tourists getting involved with the village, and they like to engage with the environment. They like to do new things when they travel. So tourists are all more than eager to get involved in this activity, because it's something new. It's something they've never done before, and they get the walk away good feeling that they've done something good for the environment. They have planted coral on the coral reef, and one of these days, those corals are going to have many babies, and the coral reef is going to get larger. And the resource does get larger. We've proven that in some of the areas that we work in. There's also coral bleaching that comes into effect, and we can get into that in another subject. But the coral reef restoration adventures is what we call that at the resorts. So they get to go out and really take part in this whole activity. And all aid does is really set it up for them, train the villagers how to operate it, and grow coral. And you can see how successful it is right in this photo here. You don't see any dead, and that coral just keeps growing. There's a picture later on that shows this same garden. In fact, I think it was just earlier, and all that coral is 3 feet tall.
I don't think we have that one.
Right. And here's Deb and I planting coral on the racks that we talked about.
Yeah.
And we're swimming over a large area of all the coral that's been planted on the reef.
That is just absolutely amazing. I mean, you have done so much, and just like what I was saying in my introduction, whether you've been a hobbyist for 30 years or you're setting up your first tank right now, what you have done for this hobby, it's an impact on us today.
Well, you only really pay attention to that you love, and I find that true of most people that I meet. And if you love the coral reef, you're going to want to be involved. You're going to want to understand it better. And those that are in our category, in our league of people that love the coral reef and want to take care of it in their own living room and watch it grow and thrive and be successful. Those are the people that love the environment. And that's what I tell the governments that I deal with and in the talks that I give and so forth. You only take care of that of what you love. The people that are doing this love what they do, and they're the people that want to come to Fiji and see this for real life. But not only Fiji, any tropical area in the world will have the same kind of thing. But they're the ones that really advance and get other people interested in it, and hopefully that knowledge grows. Hopefully that we create a movement in some way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just amazing the fact that there is that many that you guys have planted and gave back that many corals. And like you said, when you was trying to talk to Bruce, how can we figure the numbers on these? There's not enough numbers. It wouldn't fit on the screen, for the offspring that these corals have made. And ADE, the link has been dropped. Thank you very much, Brianna, for dropping those links right there. WaltSmith.com, the ADEproject.org, BuluBuddies.com, and BadaFiji.com. ADE benefits the environment and community by developing local blue economy and economic incentives that support conservation, strengthening capacity within providences to manage natural resources, promoting community-driven conservation planning and management, access and mitigation environmental impacts on coral and reefs, helping to mitigate poverty in outlying villages where little to no economic opportunities exist, establishing long-term monitoring for reef health and diversity as it relates to global change, and assemble the largest coral reef data base on the multitude of baselines for scientific research and a better understanding of our coral reef ecosystem.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing.
Well, that's the goal of AID. But on that very last one, I want to make a comment. Assembling the largest coral reef database. Well, you can interpret that in a lot of ways, but the way I interpret it is, like I said, we have at any given time 60,000 corals growing on racks somewhere in Fiji, and what we're able to observe is we have a pretty unique opportunity. We're able to observe corals that go through bleaching events. I don't know how many of your followers or listeners are familiar with what a bleaching event is, but it's when the water gets too hot and the coral dies, and it dies because it's too hot. The zooxanthellae algae leaves the coral, which is the coral's food source. So the coral then turns white, which the zooxanthellae algae was what created the color of the coral. And now you've got these corals that appear to be bleached. They might not be dead yet. In fact, my friend Bruce Carlson has some good footage of snow white corals still feeding, still polyps out feeding, but they're soon to be dead. And what we've noticed is that, and bleaching events, they move around. It's not like every year this whole area is going to turn white. It's like there's some alien up there, on a spaceship going, zap, you're dead, and moving around. And in different areas, it's different every year. But what we've been able to observe is where some of our racks are, some will go completely unharmed, and some will suffer from the bleaching. A couple hundred yards away, the reef is in perfect condition. Don't ask me why that is. Ask somebody else. But I know what we observe. And one of the things that we have observed is on some of the racks that do suffer from some of the bleaching, there are corals that do not bleach, that have somehow figured out how to survive. So say it's 20% or 30% or 50%, any number. Those corals are now the target for our next generation. And we concentrate on the corals that have become resilient, or as I like to say, have learned how to resist the global impact that we're suffering right now with the warming and the hot seawaters and everything. But if they've learned how to survive that, it's better to take, use that as brood stock and take babies from them, because every coral is a colony of adults. It's not just one animal. It's a colony. And if that colony has learned how to survive and keep it through those are the ones we should be using for the next generation. And so by observing that, we're far advancing the scientists, the science of, learning more and more about the reef and how to make it still be here in 50 years.
Absolutely. Before this question gets away from me in the comments, Henry asked, has Walt, or ADE, considered a farm in the Florida Keys to help the Keys corals that are in trouble?
There's a lot of.
That's a big conversation. I started the early part of my career in the Florida Keys. Before I moved to Tonga, I was flying to Key West every 10 days from LA and collecting from all the fish divers down there. And I got to learn a lot about the Caribbean and its habitat and so forth. There's two prominent corals in the Caribbean, and that would be Aqua palmata and Acropora palmata and Acropora cervicornis. Those two corals are the ones that have suffered the most, in fact, almost to extinction, especially the cervicornis. And palmata is the one that everybody recognizes as elkhorn. It has the big, leaves that stick out, and in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful corals you can come across in the ocean. And that has mostly died. You'll find some of it still around Belize and down further south, Brazil and, further up in the Caribbean. But it used to be nothing but that. So that's a forest fire that has long since passed anything I can do to help. And there are people working on it. There's the Coral Reef Foundation, and there's a couple other organizations down there that are working feverishly trying to do some good. But the problem is, as opposed to what I mentioned in the Pacific, where the hot spots can vary from year to year, the Caribbean is just hot, and it's got no place to hide. So what they're doing now is they're growing a lot of, especially the palmata, in research facilities and in places where they can at least have it survive somewhere, so that we can replant someday or whatever. A long time ago, in one of my talks, I created a program called the Coral Ark, and I thought we could get a lot of different a lot of different public aquariums around the world to donate at least one or two of their tanks to the Coral Ark, and we can send corals that were in trouble to them and have them survive there, so that eventually, 50 years from now, when we finally solved our problem with the warming, or coral has learned how to live in warm water, or whatever the case may be, we do have a resource base that we can use. But the Caribbean is just, number one, it's pretty far away from me. So it would be hard for me to get involved. They have their own way of doing things there, although some of them have copied my ideas, which I highly encourage, if it's successful. But Caribbean's another whole ball of wax, and it really is in bad shape, and there's no denying that. I can remember in the early 70s, diving, Pennicamp or any of these, Key West or in Marathon, some of these keys that have beautiful coral reefs, looking at them in recent years and having everything just be totally brown and covered in algae. So it's really unfortunate, and we can only hope. Yeah. That's going to take other efforts besides people planting coral. That's going to take
a lot.
The big guys, that are creating the problem to begin with, to fix it.
Absolutely. And this kind of brings me to my next question is, what gives you hope for the future of coral reefs? And I'm guessing it would be the restoration, the replanting and stuff, but I want you to answer.
Well, the future of coral reefs is a couple of things. They are finding now that coral in its own, and a lot of species, are becoming resilient to the heat, and they're not all like we find on our racks. The continued work of people like myself that are doing the restoration work and that are learning as they go. I mean, this, when we started this in, what year was it?
1998.
1998. Nobody knew anything about this. It was all trial and error, and that's how we did it. In fact, a little side story: the first rack that we actually planted was in one of the villages that we worked with as divers who were bringing the coral in. Well, that was 3 hours away by boat, and we put a rack out there. We put 2 racks out there, and we planted the coral. And the scientist that I hired, the one I talked about earlier from Micronesia, lived out there for a week, and he planted all these corals and experimented, and then came back. And then we figured, well, they're going to take some time to grow or whatever. We didn't go back there for 2 years, and we couldn't find the rack. We couldn't find the racks anywhere. We knew exactly where we put them, and finally, we after 2 days of just surveying the whole area, we looked down and we saw a little rebar leg, and I said, there's the rack right there, but you can't see it because it's become a coral reef on its own. It's completely covered in coral, and those kind of things can happen when you're doing a lot of planting. If you're just ignoring the problem and waiting for nature to fix itself, that's not the answer. We have to be proactive. We have to do things. We have to make things happen. And even though a lot of people have mentioned, commented to me, hey, Walt, why are you planting a tree in the middle of a forest fire? Well, the tree may survive and it may not. And it's not exactly a forest fire, but it is dire. So we want to see what we can do. And we're learning more about the resilience. It's teaching us something. And that resilience is probably what's going to take us to the year 2050 when all the scientists say that the coral will all be gone. I don't believe that, because I watch evolution. I watch how things are happening now, and I see how the coral reefs are responding, to the warm water, and it gets better every year. Our first bleaching event was the year 2000. That was our first major bleaching event, and it was devastating. It wiped out 80% of the other side of the island, not where I live, which is, completely the other side of the island, which if you're in a car, 4.5 hours away. But on our side of the island, we only lost a little bit. And Bruce called me and said, Walt, I understand that you're just now starting to experience bleaching. And, you got a bed for me because I'm coming down there and I want to see the forest fire while it's burning, not after the fact. So of course he came down and we did a lot of studies, and these kind of things all combined help us move forward to the year 2050.
There's a video that he did on this event, and he went back for 10 years. And he had all of his transects.
The same reef.
Same reef. And it's called resilience. And when you first look at it, it's stone dead. When you first look at it, it's white corals are still trying to feed, and it was sad. And then it died, and 10 years later, you would never believe how fabulous it came back. So you think about how many times the Earth has really warmed up with the carbon data that they have, the dating. Think about it. This is not the first bleaching event that this world has seen. So it does come back. And the Great Barrier Reef has come back too, in different parts.
Absolutely.
Not 100%, but
it does move around.
There's reports of some recovery. But
it's on YouTube, Bruce Carlson, called Resilience. Fabulous.
And I understand you've had Bruce and Marge on.
Yeah.
Not too long.
Good friends.
Yeah. Yes, we have. That was wonderful listening to their stories, and just as we're listening to your stories tonight and your travels and what you're doing to make a difference. Even today, you're making a difference. It's just absolutely amazing. So I want to ask you too, what's the craziest thing ever that's ever happened while collecting or farming corals? Craziest thing ever.
Okay, I got two stories that are kind of related.
Okay.
He asked me. You asked pretty crazy questions. I got to really dig deep.
Hey, that's
fun.
what I'm here for, to get the
No,
scoop.
no, I'm having a lot of fun with this. And I like your tank in the background, by the way. I do notice that you have a Lowusby in there, which only comes from Fiji.
I have a what?
A Lowusby. I saw it swim by earlier.
Okay.
It's a rabbit fish, black and yellow. You forgot it. You forgot it was there.
Face. I don't know names like you do.
Okay.
I was like, what? Should I get it out? Sounds
It's
like
a
it's
rabbit
purple.
fish. It's vegan.
The front part is black and the back part is yellow.
Yeah.
Anyway, the craziest thing. Okay, well, there was one day we were new to Tonga. Deb and I are out on the reef. Like I said, we were in the water 5 hours a day, 6 days a week.
With your children buried in the sand. I get it. Go ahead.
Yeah, going like that. And now we're in really shallow water, and we turn around, and I'm talking shallow enough water where you could put your hands on the sand, okay? And the snorkel was just right here. So we turn around and we look, and there's this whole school, I don't know if you want to call it a school, but a gang
Big enough.
of baby sharks swimming towards us. And they were about, I'd say maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet long at the most. And there's probably 20 of them, and they're swimming towards us. And it's the first time I had ever seen anybody walk on water. She got, I know it's in the Bible, but first time I ever saw it was Deb and her fins, her arms in the air, and just splashing across the water to get to the beach. We had never seen a shark before. So we finally got back on our boat very carefully because the boat was anchored out there. We had to go past all these little guys, And I kept telling Deb, they're babies. They can't bite big enough to get your baby toe. Don't worry about it.
I'm like, but where's the mom?
Yeah, where's the mom? So we finally got back in the boat and we went out a little bit, to deeper water, and we looked around and all we saw was dorsal fins everywhere, all around us. So we had heard stories about how to get rid of sharks and whatever, or how to attract them. And so we're in the boat and we're nice and safe. So we started taking our oar and slapping the top of the water, and more dorsal fins appeared. They were coming around to see what was going on. And that was our first experience with sharks.
Wow.
Fast forward to 15 years. Now we swim with sharks every day. They're 8 feet long. They swim right by us, and we don't even pay any attention to them because we know they're not going to hurt us. But there was one time when I was collecting alone, and I was on right off an island. The boat was anchored to the island, and I was in, again, maybe 4 to 6 feet of water, and I was collecting yellow leathers. And I'm going all around this island because that's where the soft corals live. They live close to shore. And I look over, and the water was very clear, and I see this shark that's bigger than me just sitting there watching me, motionless. And I'm watching him, and he's watching me, and I'm going, oh, okay. So I'm collecting another coral that I can't take my eyes off because I don't know what he's going to do. And finally, I just kind of started backing myself towards the beach, and got out. But he never moved. He was like motionless, and I think he was really interested in what I was doing, or he liked leather coral. I don't know. One of the maybe he had an aquarium at home and say, I want some of that. But
so Deborah, so your fear of sharks, you outgrew it, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You get used to, once you get used to seeing them in the water and know how they behave.
Sure.
It's you can mention to each other, the diver signal for shark is that.
Like this over there.
We can talk to each other that way, but I mean, there's hardly a dive you don't see at least one.
Yeah. They're well fed. They're not hungry for us.
And they're not looking for us, swimming around with big fins and, these ugly masks on and everything. But you say crazy stories. I tell that story a lot about how Deb walked on water. So that's what came to mind first.
That is absolutely funny. Oh, Lord. So next up is going to be, what is the rarest or most memorable specimen that you have ever worked with?
I'm going to have to think about this for a while. Do you think that question is not easy to answer? Probably the easiest question you've asked me all day.
Okay.
The rarest fish we actually had named because it had never been collected before. It had never been seen by science before. And the name of that fish is Centropyge deborah. And it's a Centropyge. They call it the Midnight Angel, or they call it the Deb's Angel. But I was privileged enough. Our divers brought in, a couple of them, and I say, this is a new fish. It kind of looked like Centropyge Knox in the beginning. But I said, no, there's something about this is a new fish. So we sent it to the university. It takes a couple of years to get a fish named. Finally, they came back to me and said, and then they kept coming back and said, can you send us more? And can you send us bicolors and other Centropyges from that area to make sure this is not a hybrid? And we did all that, what they asked. And about 2 years later, they came back and said, Mr. Smith, you do have a new species. And that species, we're going to name it Centropyge fijianensis. And I said, wait a minute, doesn't the person who discovered the fish get to name it? And they said, we would be honored if you would name the fish. So I said, how about Centropyge deborah? And today, that's the name you see in the science books. And I got to name it after my wife. That was the biggest thrill in my career, being able to do that. And
it's special.
What's kind of interesting, and I'm going to bring up Bruce Carlson again because somehow he just keeps fitting into this story, and he is a good friend of mine. He was on that same reef a year or two earlier than me in Fiji, and it's only one reef in Fiji that this fish is found on. And when I say reef, a big area, it's a centralized reef, different reefs in the same area, but no further than that area. He was on the same one, and he says, when he found out I named the fish Deborah, he called me and said, "Damn it, Walt!" He says, "I have video of that fish. I thought it was a different fish, but I passed it off as a Centropyge Knox, but I do have video of it." And he's got X-rated video of it. He's got a pair that are mating. So, and he sent me, that video, and he said, "Here's the Centropyge for your records. Here's a film of the Centropyge deborah, mating." But on that same reef, he found a Cirrolibris called Cirrolibris margeri, and his wife's name is Marge, and he named the fish that he found on that reef after his wife. Now, here's two good friends. What's the chances of this? Here's two good friends that found a rare fish that has never been seen anywhere else in the world, only on this one location in Fiji. And, I think Richard Pyle was also on that dive with Bruce, who's world famous he's named hundreds of fish. And he also goes 400 feet and pets coelacanths. But anyway, that's another story. What's the chance of two good friends having a fish that come from only one reef in the world, both named after their wife?
That is amazing. Amazing.
So you say, what's the rarest thing I've ever done?
That is the most memorable too. I mean, that is so special. And if I remember right, Bruce mentioned the name when he named that fish after Marge, his wife. And so this is kind of like full circle when you come on here and talk about naming the fish after your wife. So that is just spectacular story. Absolutely spectacular story.
It's,
Oh
it's
my,
something to be proud of.
absolutely, it's something to be proud of. Oh my gosh, that is so
And
sweet.
it's an honor for me. It's an
I
honor.
bet. You know what would be so cool sometime is, and I know both of you guys are, you know, y'all are so busy and you know doing this and going here and there, and you've got so many things that you're taking care of. But can you imagine what an epic live it would be if I had you and Deb and Bruce and Marge on at the same time?
Oh,
Wow.
we have a lot of stories to share. We spent a lot of time together,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
we have a lot of stories to share. Actually, Bruce, well, he was involved in one night when I got that award, and that's another story. So we go back quite a while. I met Bruce by chance at a convention, not a convention, a conference in Sydney, Australia, and we were
In the 90s.
in the 90s, and we were talking in a group, and there was another group talking next to us, and somehow the name Walt Smith came up, and Bruce turned around and he said, "Are you Walt Smith?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Are you Bruce Carlson?" He goes, "Yeah." And that's how we met.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so absolutely amazing. You guys are absolutely fantastic, and I can't even begin to wrap my mind around if I could nail all four of you down at the same time. And literally, we would just sit here and listen to the stories that you two would come up with. Brianna has dropped the links again. WaltSmith.com, adeproject.org, Bodafiji.com, and BulaBuddies.com. And you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to do, Walt?
I don't know.
I was going to greet you with Bula.
You did.
Bula. Bula with the
And
Bula.
I even had that in my notes, and I still forgot. Holy cow.
Well,
So
bula is the most
why.
common. Bula is the most common word used in Fiji. They say bula for everything. If you sneeze, they say bula. But bula is generally the greeting. You know, the greeting of the day. Bula. The correct pronunciation to the full term is bula vanaka vakalevu. So go ahead and repeat that.
I butchered names, so you don't even want me to try to say that.
Okay. But yeah, and the bula, but that's kind of an interesting story in itself, how that all developed. So,
Wow, that's amazing. Something else I wanted to ask you is when
okay.
people hear the name Walt Smith, what do you hope that they remember?
Well, that's a hard question to answer, but I hope they can remember what I stood for and what I worked for, you know, through my career. And that was the sustainability of our industry, trying to advance our industry to a better understanding and knowledge of the coral reef itself. And that I've always been a supporter of those that practice in sustainable ways, because that's the only way this industry is going to survive. We have too many of the NGOs out there, the nonprofits out there that, you know, like look what they did to Hawaii, you know, and that could happen, you know, to the entire industry. So what's most important to remember now and to practice is sustainability and making sure that what you do, you're accountable for. And if I've done anything in my career, I hope I can be held accountable for advances or knowledge that I've been able to spread. And just the fact that I've, you know, at the end of one of these conferences, like at, you know, the former MACNAs or whatever, that you can stand with me at the bar and have a nice conversation. You know, that's I hope that that's, what people remember, not just this name Walt Smith that's on a box. I really do have great aspirations for our environment and how we can succeed, and learning ways to do that is important.
Absolutely. Now, there's a comment I have to read to you, and this is from none other than Chris Meckley. Hey guys,
Hey, Chris.
I still have a ton of your Bula Buddies books.
Yeah, we
Let
were talking
me know
about that.
where to send them.
No, I haven't forgotten.
He's ready to send them. Hey, Chris Meckley, glad to see you on here. I did hear about the Bula Buddies books that you have. So, yeah. So get a hold of Chris, and he would be happy to send them to you. Now, while we're on the subject of Bula Buddies, everybody's probably going, what on earth is a Bula Buddy? So tell us about it.
What on earth is a Bula Buddy? That's a good way to ask that question.
Oh,
Because, well, you say crazy things. Okay. My wife will accuse me many times of being somebody with just too many new ideas. Okay. Well, one morning, many years ago.
Many ideas.
One morning many years ago, and this is just after the movie Nemo came out. And I watched the movie Nemo, and it was a cute little movie and all that, but I said, that was a great movie, but it missed the chance to educate.
Right.
It was a story about, this guy that gets in the water with a net and terrorizes these little fish and throws them in his tank, and they are all terrorized and they try to find ways to escape. But, no, it really missed the chance to educate people about the ocean. And so that was in my thought process for a long time after seeing that movie. And then one morning I woke up and I looked at my wife and I said, I got to write a story about these little blue people. And she said, what? And I said, I have this idea that I can create this little troupe of underwater superheroes that is an interesting story, is humorous, is interesting characters. They all have a different personality, and they're out to save the reef because they notice something is going wrong. And this is in the beginning of the bleaching era where that was starting to become a concern. So she looked at me and said, yeah, well, whatever, another one of your crazy ideas. And I started writing. And it took me about a year, and I wrote the story, and I tried to write it carefully, and then I created the characters, and I can show you what it looks like on the book. I created the characters, and I said, what I want to do is, bring this out and introduce it to the aquarium hobby. And this is kind of what the book looks like. It's one of them, and those are the characters. And they are living on a reef where they notice something's going wrong. Something is happening to their reef, and they're not sure why. And here's one of the characters going, hey, what's going on here? All the corals are turning white. Why is this happening? So it became a story of these 4 superheroes. One of them is my leading lady, who I want Jennifer Lawrence to play the lead in the movie when it comes out. Is named Heidi, and she is my female lead, and she's great. She's this redhead that has pigtails that move around like octopus and can do things. So they all have their own little power, and they're on a journey to travel the ocean away from where they're at. And their Viti Reef is where they live in Fiji, and they're going to travel and find a better reef to move their village to, so they can all survive and have a future. And so the story becomes about these characters that go on a journey to find a better place to live and a better environment. And the plan is, I have 2 books written so far. I have a total of 6 books, 2 books published so far. I have a total of 6 books written. And where they do is what they do is they travel from country to country. So you get to learn while you're reading about the culture of the country. Their next visit is to Tonga. That's book 3. And the name of the book is called The Royal Surprise. Why the Royal Surprise? Because Tonga is a kingdom, and it has a king and a royal family. And they meet the king in this book. And they teach the king how to save their reef, because he's going, we got problems too, Can you help us? So they move from country to country to country, and they finally, at the end of the story, if book 6 ever gets published, I don't know if it will, they wind up back at the back side of the reef where they started, but now it's flourishing and it's doing well because they learned how to plant corals. And in book 2, they meet a very famous scientist who had disappeared off the scene. She worked at the university, and one day she just vanished, and nobody knows where she went. And now it's so many years that she became folklore. They didn't know if she was real or folklore, and her name was Dr. Roxanne Waves. So
and what? Now that's a good one. That's a good one.
And can you find a picture of her?
Oh.
And so Roxanne Waves is now learned how to talk with the fish, and has a special apparatus where she can stay underwater for an extended period of time. And she is working with the coral and trying to figure out how to save it. And she's been admiring Simeon, who's the leader of our little pack, who's also planting coral. This is
You got a better picture of this?
yeah. This is a picture of Roxanne.
That was the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, there's that one.
There. Here's a picture of Roxanne, and she's with her ride, her special ride. You can see I made her modern. I gave her pink and blue hair, because she's got to fit in, But anyway, it was a fun story to write. It was a fun thing to publish. And today, to this date, we have book 1 and book 2. We have a coloring book and an activity book. It has games in it and everything. And we also have this is the activity book. And you can see her, Heidi, holding up the, and then I have 3 puzzles, all based on the characters of the book. And the puzzles look like this. And guess what? This whole set, 3 puzzles, 2 books, and the activity book is in your raffle today. So somebody will win this whole set.
Somebody, I hope you guys heard that. Somebody is going to win that whole set that he just showed. Book 1, book 2, the activity books or activity book, and puzzles 1, 2, and 3. This is very, and I want you to know in the codes or the links that has been dropped. Brianna has dropped the links, and in those links you will find where to get your hula buddies. And just so you know, guys, not to be first or anything, but I did order mine last night or night before last.
You ordered yours last night.
No, the first night we talked.
Oh, well.
Yeah, Sunday night. I think it was Sunday night. I was like, yeah, I'm going to order mine because I know how you guys are. And I know you would probably beat me to all of them. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to get the jump on this one. So I ordered one of everything. So I too will have the whole set. And I do hope that you continue and you get the rest of the series published, because I think that is really absolutely amazing. There it is. Brianna has dropped the links again. You can find there it is, www.bulabuddies.com.
I don't know how active that site is in terms of.
It is. She ordered off of it, so
if you ordered off of it, that's interesting. Okay, because we kind of stopped with the website because we were selling so much of it in Fiji that we just kept it a local. We sold to all the main gift shops there and so forth. People that are traveling that will buy it, so that became our market. And now that we're spending more time in the U.S., I want to develop the same market here. So it's kind of urgent. You'll be among the first.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that. That is going, that whole set is going up on the wheel tonight. Along with, something that everybody's like kind of been hinting about is that cool shirt. Like, in the world did you get that cool shirt that you've got on?
Well, this is a Lady of Paradise. I don't know if you can see
Bird of
everything.
Paradise.
Bird of Paradise. And what happened? The way, are you interested in how this all got started?
Absolutely.
You got time for the likes of me? Anyway,
I got time.
Deb, a few years back, Deb's mother was very ill. She was 97 years old, and Deb wound up spending more time taking care of her mother here in the States than with me in Fiji. So now I'm left to run the business by myself. Of course, we talked every single day, several times a day, and she still carried on her duties for the business, which is stuff I don't even know about, like money, and all of that.
Help.
Deb is CFO. I'm operations. So we have two very distinct jobs that run the company and keep it moving. But she was gone, and I'm sitting there at home every night going, well, what am I going to do next? So I started creating art. Going back to my architecture days and all of that, I started creating all this wall art, and a lot of it became pretty interesting to me. And I started selling some locally in Fiji, and I decided, some of this kind of looks like I could make placemats and other items out of it. So I went to a fabric maker, who made different products. I said, can you make placemats out of this design? And he said, yeah, we can do that. But he looked at the design and said, did you ever consider shirts? And I said, no. And he went to his computer, he took my design, and in a couple of minutes, he had my design applied onto a Hawaiian shirt. And I said, that's amazing. How can you do that? So I literally went home and started pumping out designs as fast as I could. I wound up with 600 different designs. They're not all shirts.
He was busy.
I did not, I didn't have a wife. By that time, it was too late to talk to her, because we're, 5 hours apart. When it's noon here, it's 5 o'clock in the evening there. Here in Fiji.
It's 19 hours difference.
So I had all these designs, and then now I'm going, well, I think they kind of look good on a purse. I think they kind of look good on, and so now I got like 30 or 40 different products that I apply the same design to. So you can actually get a shirt with matching shorts and a tote bag and
or a matching mug
and a mug, all to match the one design that you like, or you can just go about and that's taken, the last few years of my life to develop and to get into all these products. And even today, if you go to the website, the website started out very small because in the beginning it was only shirts. So now I'm working with a really good IT guy here in the States who is helping me design a new site that encompasses all the products that I sell. And right now, if you go there, it'll take you to the SD store where you can buy the product. But the site itself, even though it has a URL to it, is still in developing stage. So you'll see all the products, but it's not what the final site's going to look like. So you'll be able to look at it and see what's Walt making next. Some of the products only have one product in them because I was just experimenting. Well, can I make leather boots? Guess what? I can. So that was for my granddaughter. But
that is absolutely awesome. And so there's two different designs of one of your shirts that we're also going to give away tonight. Yeah. So you guys, you've hung with us for what? We're at the 2 hour mark right now. I've got
another couple hours.
Got another couple hours. Mercy day. I might have to have a pee break.
I'm just kidding. We do eat dinner every now and then.
Now, Now, with Bruce and Marge, it was kind of the same thing because there was so much to talk about, and to compact it into one live, it was very difficult. It was very, very difficult. And so I asked Bruce and Marge, I was like, when we were wrapping up, 2.5 hours, whatever later, I said, would you guys be willing to come back? And we called it a chapter 2. I said, would you be willing to come back for a chapter 2? And they said, absolutely. And so we did. We had to split their live up into, a couple of lives, And so I'm going to propose the same question to you and Deborah. Would you guys be willing to come back for a part 2?
Absolutely.
Sure. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I've had so much. Now I still have, I've got to get this one question in.
No, you can get as many as you want in. Don't worry about us.
Okay. What accomplishment are you most proud of that most people don't even know about?
Well, I don't know about most people don't even know about, but the part of your question, what accomplishments am I most proud of? I'm going to say I have 4 beautiful daughters. I have 13 grandchildren. I have 4 great-grandchildren, and I have one of the most wonderful wife in the world. That's what I'm most proud of.
That's absolutely amazing. I absolutely love that. Oh, well, my goodness. Now, we didn't get to, David Govek says part 2, part 3, part 4. I don't know. We're going to wear these guys out. We're going to wear these guys out for sure. That the way that you answered that it was just so wholesome and so from the heart. And I know that you mean that. And that is absolutely.
How could I not?
That's true.
And this trip that we're on, because we live mostly in Fiji, the trip that we're on, I was able to make, because 2 of my daughters live in Tennessee, and then I'm from Chicago. So we were able to make a around the country trip on this journey. And I've been here for a couple of months. I got a new knee on this trip, so I'm here for longer than usual. But I was able to go to Tennessee and see my grandchildren there and my great grandchildren there, and my 2 daughters before Deb. We've been together 43 years, but before that, I did have another wife and 2 daughters, and they gave me a bunch of grandchildren. And then Deb, we had 2 daughters together, and one lives in Maui, Hawaii, and the other one lives in San Diego, California. And our daughter in Maui said, I'm an island girl. I was raised in the islands. I'm gonna continue living in the islands. And she met a guy from Maui, and they got married, and now they have 4 kids. And her older sister said, I'm done with the islands. I've been here my whole life. I want to see the city. And she moved to San Francisco.
Ooh, that was a big change of pace, wasn't it?
Well, we were getting pictures of the San Francisco skyline every day on Facebook. She was so amazed to be, where the big tall buildings were. She finally settled in San Diego because she became more, hey, I forgot about the beach. Yeah. So she moved down to San Diego to Ocean Beach, and wow. Lives near the beach now. But that was the story of those 4 daughters. But they gave us a heap of grandchildren. Our oldest gave us 2, and our youngest gave us 4, and the other 2 gave us a whole bunch of others.
It's huge.
Yeah, and we got to visit them all on this trip. Yeah. In fact, they were just here, and
we were just there. It's been the family and friends tour.
Right.
Wow. That is absolutely a long time. Absolutely amazing. And I'm just so thankful that we started talking. Deb and I think first started messaging, and Joseph Caparetta, by the way, he said hi a while ago back in the comments. He's on here watching. He's bringing in the Pecani rock.
I saw that.
Rocks,
I saw that a couple of weeks ago. Hi, Joe.
Yeah. That's it. That's how this all started, because we've got our rock back on the market, and we sold it to Joe, and
then you came along,
and then Joe was talking to you, and we were sitting there listening, going, you guys were talking, and it was like, oh, hey, hi, we're here too. It's fun, meant to be.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that our paths have crossed, because I've got to hear some amazing stories. And I do know from talking to you guys Sunday evening, when we were chatting, I do know that there is a lot more stories that you guys haven't heard yet, in the comments that you guys haven't heard yet, that you're absolutely going to have to. Now you have been to shows. I know you've spoke at Magna, and you've been to some other shows and stuff. Is there any plans in your future that you know of that you're going to be at any shows?
We got one.
Well, we'll be at Reefpalooza
in LA.
At the next month, I think.
The end of August.
We hardly ever missed a Magna.
Yeah.
I think I've done, well, almost every Magna I always spoke, somewhere, but I think I've done four or five dinner talks where I was able to get up in front of the whole audience, and we always gave away the Fiji trip. Whether I was a speaker for the dinner or not, I don't know if you know about this.
No.
Every year at Magna, the main raffle prize was a trip for two for 10 days to Fiji, sponsored by Walt Smith International. And that every year, Deb would draw the ticket on stage, and it would be a big seller for Magna. It helped them out a lot because they sold a lot of raffle tickets, and every year somebody won. And a lot of those people, one of those couples has come back twice now to Fiji because of their first trip, and always contact us. Hey, we're coming to Fiji again. Another one was a famous
drag racer woman,
a motorcycle drag racer whose husband was sitting in the audience. And what Deb and I would do is, they would sell their raffle tickets all through the event, but at dinner, where they were going to pull a ticket just before the talks and everything, Deb and I would walk around the audience and sell more tickets right there, for people sitting in their chairs, and the ticket was going to be drawn in just a few minutes. Well, this one particular night, this one guy won who was right in the first row, who had just bought a ticket like minutes before, and there's like 10,000 tickets in this bucket, And so Deb fishes in and pulls out the ticket, and he comes up and he goes, "This is amazing. I wish my wife was here, but she's busy. She was doing one of her races somewhere." He said, "Well, let's call her on the phone. Let's call her on the cell." Now I'm gonna get a little verbal here for a minute, but this is exactly what happened. We call her on stage in front of the microphone, and now there's 1,500, 2,000 people sitting out there in the audience, and we're saying, and he's going, "Honey, we just won a trip to Fiji for 10 days. And over the phone comes, "No shit." And the whole audience broke out laughing. And I said, "Turn the phone around." And everybody say, "It's true," or yell something. Yeah. And she got to hear, just, "Oh my God, did they hear me just now?" And so they won a trip, but that was one of the funniest wins. Yeah. But we did that every year. And whether I did the dinner speech or not, we came up. Richard Ross was always the MC, and he did a great job of it. And, was actually a wonderful host. And we always had a lot of fun with him being up there. And it was just a great event to go to. It's just unfortunate. It's the smaller events that have actually appear in different cities now. Because with MACMA, you would have to travel across the country in most cases to go to it. It was in a different city every year, but it was in one city. Now they have a version of MACNA, a much smaller version, but where you can go buy your frags and all that stuff in almost every city all year long.
There's
So
always something going on now. It's an interesting hobby, you know.
Right. Now,
So-
I will be at Aquashoa Chicago, the September 26th and 27th. Any chance of y'all being on this side of the island that time?
I'm supposed to be back in Fiji. When am I leaving?
In September.
End of
What
maybe.
day is it? What day is it?
September 26th and 27th.
Yeah,
I think you're gone.
I'll be gone the 23rd.
Yeah.
So I just miss it.
And we just changed her.
And we just changed our tickets yesterday. I
Oh,
was
no.
supposed to leave August 17th. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah, that's not happening.
No.
Oh, my
I still want my
gosh.
knee here, and I still want to do a few things. And some more friends are coming to visit us, so I'm going to hang around for that and just get back to Fiji later than I planned.
If you see any any other shows, I know you're going to Los Angeles. I can't make that one. But if you see, like, even next year, that you're planning, that you're going to attend a couple of shows or whatever, be sure and let me know, because I would be so honored to meet you guys in person.
Oh, it'd be fun. Yeah.
We're meeting right now.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm a hugger.
But
No,
you can't hear.
there's
Shake
that.
my hand.
Let's have a fist bump right here.
Well, Rob from MACNA, the one who was,
Rob Mookie?
yeah, no, I
He
can't.
does reef stock, I think.
Yeah, he's involved in a lot of these shows, and he's good friends with us, and he might, if he hears of this broadcast, he might give you some ideas where I can show up. But when I show up at these reef paloozas and all that, it's all young hobbyists buying frags. Nobody really knows who I am, so I'm looking at frags and stuff, going, how do you get away with selling that little tiny thing when I sell something this big, for half the price,
Right.
But it just
The industry's changed.
the industry has changed a lot.
Absolutely. It has changed so much. Before I forget and the comment gets away from me, Chris Meckley says, let me scroll back. Thanks, Tian, Deb, and Walt. Give me a shout when you have a minute. Give him a phone call. He said, I got to run. He has enjoyed it, though. So yeah, we can get a hold of Chris Meckley. And
Okay.
we've got so many things to talk about on part 2. We are going to, now I do know that you guys have got a trip planned. I think you're maybe leaving tomorrow for a little trip.
Tomorrow we'll be in Guadalajara
No,
Okay.
Mexico City.
and Mexico City.
Okay.
We have a customer of ours down there who supplies all of the Petcos, and he buys the same rock that Joe bought. The Patani rock, and he got a 40-foot container of that not too long ago, and they're having a big convention there and talk and conference and invited us, paid for most everything, and wanted us to be there for this. So we're going to Mexico City. I've never been there before.
Well, I know Deb doesn't like to stay in one place, and she likes adventure, so I'm pretty sure she's cool with that.
Yep. Yeah, you can buy toothbrushes in Mexico.
That's right. That's right. Frank Aguirre says tacos and tequila.
We go hand in hand.
That is absolutely, that's amazing. Now I've got my admin. He usually puts everything up on the screen for me, and his internet is nil tonight, basically. So I am going to have to put the wheel up, and it may take me just a minute to figure out exactly how to do it again, because yeah, he usually does this for me. Let's see if I can get the wheel up. I will figure it out. Guys, while I am doing this, I want you to send out your biggest thanks to our guest for showing up tonight. Any bright, wonderful words? Sean Stark says, I have 48 pounds of the pecani rock waiting on the branch. Awesome. Yeah, I send a big, huge shout out to Walt and Deb for showing up, hanging out with us tonight. And there we go. Maybe I can get it. Screen. Hanging out with us tonight. There's Will names. Oh, look, I did it. I'm shocked. I actually did it. Let me change this scene here.
We'll have to give you the correct website for BOD also, because I don't think you have the right one up there. Or you might.
Let me see. I think they do.
Okay. Deb, if that's not the right one, feel free. You've got your phone there in front of you. Feel free to drop it in the comments if that is not the correct one. If that's not the correct one. Look at everybody. Amazing live. Thank you guys so much. Truly amazing. Thank you, Walt and Deb. That, I just don't have words for it. I'm very thankful. Like I said,
Are those all names that are in the raffle?
yes. Everyone that commented on the promo that I put up on TikTok on the page, everybody that commented, I replied to them, and then I copied and pasted their name, and their name is on the wheel. And the funny thing is, Walt, is you have to be present to win. So we're going to see who has been hanging out with us for, I don't know, 2 hours and 20 minutes or so. But who would want to have left this? Because if you missed the story, you missed the story. Yes, we are going to have a part 2. I will get with you guys, and because I know your schedule is like crazy amazing for the places that you go and the things that you see and all that, and you're super busy, but we will manage to get a part 2 in because it's just, there's just so much to talk about. Like I said, you and I talked Sunday night for 2 hours, just us, and I heard stories then that we still haven't talked about yet, and so I do know that another part 2 is not going to be difficult to do because there is so many. And so yes, thank you, Brianna, for dropping those links. Guys, please go check out their Facebook page. Go check out the ade.org. The links have been dropped. The Bula Buddies, and
Do you have pictures of the products so people can see what they're spinning for?
What are we spinning for?
You're asking a lot of me tonight, but since I'm having to operate this wheel.
What are we spinning for? Are you spinning for the Bula Buddies books, the set of Bula Buddies books? Because we've already showed that.
Yeah,
You have a photo of the group.
set of the Bula Buddies books, we're going to spin for that, and then we're going to
Send you a
spin
picture of the group.
the shirt, the choice of the shirt. My name missed. Oh, Henry, your name missed the wheel. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I've had the promo up since I believe Friday night. Because this is huge to me. This has been just an absolutely amazing, wonderful live. It's been so good to and chat with you guys. It really has.
The wheel's not slowing down; it's going at the same speed.
No, she hasn't.
Oh well, I haven't spun it yet. I haven't even spun it. Yeah. Let me see if I can get over here to it. There it is. Now in the center, if you can see it, it's there's your Walt Smith International.
Okay.
Yeah. And all the names is on the wheel. I've got them over here at the side, and all we did was copy and paste from the promo ad. And so, guys, first up, we're gonna spin. You've already seen it. You've already seen it. The complete set of the Bula Buddies, book 1, book 2, the activity book, and puzzles 1, 2, and 3. And I will have to say that my set, the order I placed for my set, I already got my. I mean, they're not here, but I placed my order because I know how you guys are. You wouldn't think twice about buying them out, and I wouldn't get. No, I'm just teasing. But yes, I did get a set ordered Sunday night off the website. The link has been dropped. I encourage you to.
It doesn't have everything though. Sorry.
Huh?
Sorry to interrupt. The website only has book 1. It doesn't have book 2.
Okay.
So the website hasn't been updated in a long time.
Okay,
Sorry.
so like I'm not gonna. Oh, like I didn't get book 2.
I'll make sure you get the whole set when I see the order.
So she's fine. You're fine. We went to the storage logger. We found it all here. It just hasn't been updated on the website. The other newer products.
The website hasn't been touched in years.
Yeah. So when that happened to us, we kind of we're stagnant for a lot of reasons. And we're just, COVID happened. My God, it was like mom died, COVID happened, the band happened.
Right.
Life happened.
Life happened. Absolutely. And so, yeah, I placed an order. Whatever's on the website, I got one of each coming. So, and I encourage you guys also to go to the link, ade.org, that has been dropped in the comments. I encourage you to go to that, read over it, see what they do. If you feel encouraged to help in with that, I'm sure there's a way on their website, ade.org, that you can possibly do that. Walt Smith has done a lot. Him and Deborah both have done a lot for the coral restoration, replanting millions of over 1 million of corals, and what you have in your tank, there's been a hand somewhere that is actually been Walt Smith has had a hand in it somewhere along the way. I can guarantee you that. So yes, a debt of gratitude to you for all that you do to keep the coral industry going, and the replanting, the ade.org. Go check it out. Up for grabs first, we'll spin is going to be book 1, book 2, activity book, puzzles 1, 2, and 3. Guys, good luck. Let's go.
Lori Wood.
Lori Wood. We're looking for Lori Wood. That's the thing. They got to be present to win. If they're not here, gosh, we can't give it away. They got to be present to win. Looking for Lori Wood. Lori Wood. And guys, thank you. I have so much enjoyed that. What can I say? I'm looking for Lori Wood. Lori is here. NC. Okay. Lori is here. Congratulations, Lori. Let me write that down. I was getting a message and I needed to look at it. Lori Wood.
How do we get the information forwarded to us and where to send this?
All winners. Stop sharing and share will. Stop sharing. Stop sharing. Okay. I don't know. Chad told me to stop sharing and share will. Okay. Okay. All winners will actually send me an email to info@Tank Talk with Tian with your shipping information on it. And I will then in turn get that information onto you and Deb, so
Okay.
you can fill those orders. Okay, let's see. Let me see if I can do this again. I don't know why I needed to do that. Okay.
Now on the shirts, you've got 2 to choose from.
There is 2 to choose from.
And then we need to know size. There's one shirt that doesn't have an XL available here in where I'm at, in the States, but it has all the other sizes.
Gotcha. And
so-
what I will do actually on that one is, like after the live, I will put up a post. I always put up a thank you post because I'm so grateful that these guests, everyone comes on with me. So I always put up a thank you post, and I always put up the winners' information, not their information, the winner's name and what they won. And so I will try to, in the comments, because I do have pictures of the 2 shirts that are available, the 2 designs that they get to choose from. So I will try to drop them in the comments. Like I said, this is usually not my forte here, is setting this up and doing the screen thing. But tonight it is. And
is there any way we can show those 2 shirts up on the screen, one at a time or whatever?
I would, let me see if I can. Let me try this. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay. I got the wheel off there. Give me just a minute, guys. Let me see if I can pull them up. Give me just a minute. Congratulations, Lori Wood. Man, talk about luck. That is it right there. Let me see if I can find those pictures again. Oh, I know why I was doing that. Blue Ocean Designs. I do need you guys to go check them out. Blue Ocean Designs.
That's not that fun.
Let me hang on.
Dutch.
Hopefully I'm almost there. I'm looking through these. There they are.
The photos would have been emailed to you separately.
Yes, I have them. Okay, guys, let me see if I can do this. Bear with me because this is not how I usually do things here. Okay, now we're gonna let me try add scene media. Screen. I don't know if
There they are. I see.
There they are. There they are. There's the let me see if I can move us out of the way.
Click and make them big or something.
Yeah. There's the 2 designs right there. Sorry.
They're both coral. One is Tubastraya, and the other one is Acropora.
Gotcha.
The one on the left is called Aqua Spike.
Aqua
And
Spike.
I can show you here. Here's one of the shirts.
Oh, see, now you've got look at there. You got that thing, right? The shirt right
there. I'm organized.
And this one is Aqua Spike.
I'm organized.
Oh, look at that. You are actually going to have your choice of
one of these 2.
One of those 2.
They come in almost every size except one of them doesn't have an XL.
Gotcha. And so now we're going to
tell them they go up to 3X.
Going to get my wheel back. Let me see if I can do this again. Screen. Let me find my wheel. There it is. Share. All right. There is the wheel. All right.
Yes.
That wheel kind of matches your shirt. Look at that. I like that. It looks just like your shirt. It's got all the same colors in it. I don't even know how we did that. We didn't even try that out. There's a lots of cool designs over there, and there's not just shirts. Like he said earlier, there's a little bit of everything. So please go check out that website. Thank you, Brianna, for dropping the links for us tonight. Go check out all the links that has been dropped. And yes, be sure and check out the ade.org. Look at Tian go with the tech stuff. Brandy, I'm not real good at it, but here I am. Oh my gosh. Guys, this is going to be for your choice. You get to choose one between the two designs. And we're going to need, when we need this information, whoever wins this, we're also going to need your shirt size. Like Walt said, one of the shirts does not have an XL size that is available right now. So yeah, but I'm sure you're going to find one that you can wear and that you are going to like. Thank you, Barry. Bodfiji.shop. There you go. There's the link again. Go check them out. And this is for your choice of one of the two shirts. Good luck, everybody. Let's go. Brianna Sovey. I don't know if she's here or not. Oh, Brianna Sovey, are you here? I do need you to email me. Henry, Barry just dropped the link where the shirts are. Scroll back up. I'm sure Brianna can probably drop it again. That's where you're going to find the shirts, all the stuff. There's not just shirts.
It should say, and this is confusing because we're in the middle of transition, where to see all the products. It should say bodfiji.shop.
Yeah, someone just found that.
Yeah, Barry just dropped it.
It's not a .com or anything. It's a .shop.
Yeah.
bodfiji.shop.
I wasn't kept in the.
There you go. Thank you, Barry, for dropping that. And Brianna is here. So congratulations on that.
I can wear small, a men's small. So I know a lot of women wear the men's shirts too. So a small would fit. Then we go all the way up to 3X. So
gotcha. Thank you, Barry. There's that link again for the bodfiji.shop. There is the link for that. That's where you're going to find all the cool stuff. There's a lot of stuff on there too. I will tell you, there is a lot of stuff. A lot. So
when you click on an item there, it'll take you straight to the Etsy shop so you can buy it right away.
Oh, she wants your shirt in a
My
medium.
shirt.
I just read the comment. She wants your shirt in a medium. We don't have that.
Yeah.
We can
don't
order.
have that.
We don't.
Brianna, you don't have to take what you get, girl. You're just gonna have to take what you get. We'll figure it out. We will absolutely.
Well, if I was in Fiji, I would have it, but I'm not in Fiji.
Nah,
So
you're not.
we have limited supply here that we use for the local shops.
Oh, absolutely. That
Small.
is wonderful. Congratulations to Lori Wood. Congratulations to Brianna Sovey. I am still waiting on the tickets for 2 to Fiji. I'm going to hold out for that.
I don't know if that's going to come around again.
I can hope, Walt. I can hope. Okay.
We need a maximum of 3,000 people in the audience. Then it works.
I agree.
Or we need to sell a lot of rock.
There you go. Hey, I think the live we had with Joseph, here a few weeks ago, I think we moved quite a bit of rock. That is, so yes, check out the Pecani Rock. Check it out. Thank you, Barry, so much for dropping that. And Barry, I will ask you, when I put up my post after the live is over, and I put up my post, if you don't mind, if you would drop that link in the comment section of the post, and we'll drop all the other links too. But that one there takes you straight to the shop end of it. So yes, thank you very much, Deborah, Walt. I want to thank you so very much for coming on with me tonight, and I am looking forward to part 2 whenever you guys are ready. I'll make sure that there's an opening there, and we will continue this. And there's a lot more roads to go down and a lot more stories to tell. And anyone that misses listening to the legacy, the story of Walt Smith, has literally just missed out, because it
was our pleasure.
Our pleasure.
And we're very happy to help out in whatever way we can. And our time is always available to the hobby, no matter what.
Thank you so very much. I think everyone that has been on here with us, I do believe everyone has enjoyed listening to the stories, and I think are excited for part 2. Frank Aguirre says thank you and enjoy Mexico. That was the Magna. What did it go? The Magna that got away. Henry says Tang Gang shirt. My wife is saying maybe. There you go.
It'll make him smile. It'll make him smile when he wears it. Every time Walt wears his shirt out, people come up to him and go, "Cool shirt, dude."
Well, I have one, and I have more than 50 designs, and I have one of every design in my size in the closet. So I wear a different shirt every day.
Right.
That's only because I can. They're my shirts, so I can wear one.
They're your shirt. I don't blame you. And I'm so excited to get my order in that I placed for the Bula Buddies. I'm super excited about that.
Hope you enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, now keep in mind,
none of this is going to happen till we come back from Mexico.
We're gone a week, and we leave early in the morning, so we won't have any time to do this before we leave. As soon as we come back, we'll pay attention to it and get them out. So if people are going, where's my books or where's my shirt? Let them know it's going to take
a vacation.
Yeah.
Right.
we're eating tacos.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think it was Frank Aguirre said tacos and a margarita or tequila. I think is what he said. There's so many shirts to look at. Check out that website. Thank you, Barry Goss, for finding the .shop. I appreciate that. Go check out the ade.org. Also, read up on that. If you feel the need, then the donation door, I guess, is always open there. So, yes, thank you very much. Walt, Deborah, let me just say, Bula to you both.
Bula Banaka Bakalebu.
That time.
and Banaka.
Banaka. Yeah.
Banaka is thank you.
Oh, okay. I got that. I might could do that. Banaka. I like that.
That's easy. That's an easy one.
I can do that one. I can do that. Thank you so very much. Thank all of you who have hung with us for now over 2.5 hours. We greatly appreciate all the winners. Please email. Thank you, Melissa. Email us at info@tanktalkwithtyan.com and send me your information. Keep in mind, they are leaving early in the morning to head out to Mexico. So don't think that you're going to get your shipment in 2 days, because it's not going to happen. They will take care of it as soon as they do get back. Go check out their websites. Follow them on Facebook. Walt Smith International. You're going to find that. All those links have been dropped several times tonight. And so go check them out. Guys, thank you. And I will be talking to you soon for...
I bet.
I bet you will. And goodbye, everybody. I mean, I haven't got a chance to see any of your faces, but I'm glad you stuck around just to hear our silly stories.
Absolutely. And they'll be back for part 2.
And
Thanks, guys.
you've done a great job. This has really been
thank you.
it's really been a good interview, and we enjoyed it. And they're not always that way, so I no, enjoyed it, and I will tell people about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. Y'all have a safe and wonderful trip to Mexico.
Thank you.
And
Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.